All right. So what else we got? We got Apple aftermarket close, Amazon, Intel as well too. Coin. So yeah, Bitcoin pretty important this week, right? Thursday after close, Wednesday after close, Riot and Coin. For anybody that trades DoorDash, their block as well too. Team is one of FIVA's favorites to trade, so definitely keep a lookout for that. Pretty important week for XLC as well too. Obviously, Snap, Meta, um, my gamblers. You got DraftKings as well too. Twilio, Roku. So yeah, pretty big and important earnings week. I'm saying that to say this. Um, lot can change. I'm probably not going to be recommending too heavy on swings. With that being said, just because with earnings coming out, you got Exxon Mobil on Friday as well too. I do think 120 is in the works for Exxon, but obviously, you got to pay attention to what earnings is going to do. If earnings is good, then I think we could see 125, 130. Oh, I'm my bad. On Wednesday, you also got BA. I don't know how I forgot that one as well too. So, and then Kroger. No, Kroger's KR. My bad. CBX, that's Chevron. So again, that's going to be the oil industry. So again, this is going to be a pretty important week. Also, we are coming into the last couple of trading days for July, right? So we definitely want to pay attention to that. So yeah, lot of big time earnings coming through. So you definitely want to pay attention and I would say just tread lightly. You don't want to swing too heavily into things um, as well too. All right. With that being said, let's take a quick look at how futures are doing. I'm just looking at futures on see how the weekly is going. So again, what we talked about from before is that all we're seeing so far is just a pullback. We're not necessarily seeing like a big drop, a big reversal. We're just seeing a pullback. As a matter of fact, on the weekly on ES, because we closed to me because we closed above this previous low or inflection point, if you will, that potentially sets us up for a 322 rev strat back to the upside. Not necessarily a 322 rev strat here, but again, you get a pullback. If you draw the fibs, I think we came back to equilibrium, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so we basically touched equilibrium on the Nasdaq, and yeah, potential to reverse and bounce there. And then the Dow, if you were paying attention to anything that we were talking about yesterday in the group chat, me and Big Ben were talking about that. I think the Dow is poised to make a pretty decent run based on the weekly, looking at the higher time frames. Now, when you look at the daily, I'm not counting this candle because obviously this candle just opened. But yeah, we saw, at the end of Friday last week, we ended up inside. So potential for reversal back to the upside is, what we're seeing. We had talked about this on I can't remember the last time we did a session, but we had talked about, with ES and even the Qs, basically coming down and closing out gaps. So this gap got closed here. Obviously this fair value gap got filled here. And then what happened is we basically swept the lows here, right? So when I see that, that makes me think it's not a guarantee, but makes me think, okay, if we swept the lows and we close back above that previous low, then there's a potential for reversal, which is, obviously what happened on that Friday. The Thursday we came down, swept all the lows. Well, really Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday came down, swept all the lows. And then the Friday we got that nice little reversal. So we're looking at a potential, 2-1-2 reversal to the upside. However, with that being said, that does not guarantee, a run up. My bad. That does not guarantee a run up because we do have some areas of potential resistance. Like, for example, this fair value gap here that we have where the consequent encroachment is right there by a previous low that may act as resistance. So essentially what you could potentially see is price push back up into this range and then, potentially drop even more. Ideally, what we want for price, if we're talking bullish, by the way, we would want price to come back above and hold above this previous low. This should act as a resistance now that price is below it. But if the bulls step in, price will go back above it and then use it as support again as a potential takeoff point, right? So what we could potentially see this week is the first move, and then again, you might get a pullback. If we can hold and not again come back down to take out these lows, then yeah, we can continue to see price moving up. But again, we do have a lot of earnings this week, so you know, pay attention, head on a swivel. If the trade is not going your way, get out, right? Don't sit there and be stubborn and like, I know it's gonna work. Unless your trade has a lot of time on it, you know, don't be stubborn this week. I don't think this is the week for you to do that. Same thing with ES as well too. Again, we have a fair value gap here. We got a previous low. You see prices trying to trade back up into that. We essentially would want for price to get back above this low, but also since the consequent encroachment of the fair value gap is a little bit higher, ideally I would want to see price kind of close above the consequent encroachment, whatever day that is. That may not be tomorrow. It could be Tuesday, it could be Wednesday, right? So if we're thinking bullish, that is, I would want to see price kind of close above that consequent encroachment, and then we can continue to move on up and continue to move forward. Dow looks a little bit better in my opinion. If I'm not mistaken, what we're seeing is the unicorn model here with this fair value gap inside of a breaker block. Didn't touch it, but as you can see, held support above it. This previous high was, you know, acting as support. So now it looks like we're about to, you know, potentially TTO back to the upside. Obviously, we have some resistance along the way, got a little tiny fair value gap here. And then also this green candle here is an order block. But what's happened so far is that we have you know, held support. We got the 2-2 reversal that we were looking for here from Wednesday heading into Thursday. Friday was the bullish confirmation. So if the bullish trend is going to continue, because right now we have a order block here. This red candle here is the order block, followed by, if this candle displaces above this candle, then we're looking at a fair value gap as well too. Then we have a stacked order block on top of excuse me, a stacked order block fair value gap combination there, which would signify bullish momentum. If that is the case, then you know, we're looking for price to eventually come back up to 41,672. I would probably mark out between this area, between these two areas as potential resistance if price is going to, you know, make it up there. But if you see it starting to exhaust in this range, then you're probably going to potentially see a pullback. All right. Yeah. So with that being said, in the interest of time, not really going to look over every single sector. Frankly, it could change based on earnings, right? Again, we have some pretty significant hitters reporting earnings, which could sway those sectors. For example, XLK, Microsoft is reporting earnings. MasterCard, I believe, is in financials, if I'm not mistaken. So that could, I don't have my sector. Yeah, I don't have it up, but that could sway financials. You got Meta for XLC, that could sway that. You have GE for XLI and BA as well too. So really, I could look at the sectors all day, but honestly, earnings might change that, right? With that being said, there is, wait, actually, I don't want to do it off of this one. Let's go here real quick. Nope, let's go. I need that to stay open. Damn, I need that to stay open. You know, F it. We're just going to go here. So if you've been paying attention to any type of political news, again, I'm completely apolitical. I want to make that be very clear. So please don't send me DMs. Trump this, Biden that, or excuse me, Harris this. I really don't give a fuck. I only pay attention to politics just based on how they can sway the market. So if you've been paying attention, a lot of senators, as well as I think even Trump has mentioned Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. The Bitcoin future must be in America. So pay attention to Bitcoin, right? If you look at it on the monthly, we had the pull. We went inside last month. On the monthly, I know we only have what, 3 trading days left in July. So one or two things, in my opinion, is going to happen. Give me 1 second. Where are you? One or two things, in my opinion, is going to happen. We're above the 50% of the previous month. So if we get a really strong push, then if we get above 71,949 over the next 3 days, then we have officially gone outside month. If you look at the monthly, all that's happened. I know there's been a lot of noise with Bitcoin dropping and all that shit, and a lot of people losing money, but there's a reason why I like paying attention to the higher time frames, because they tell you to kind of cancel out all that noise. Only thing that happened with Bitcoin is that it retraced back into a fair value gap. That's it. It hit the consequent encroachment. It swept this previous low. So for me, looking at the higher time frame, when I see that, and I'm pretty sure the algos and whoever else probably saw it too, probably started loading the boats on Bitcoin at that point. So now, obviously, those who got in down here are probably sitting pretty up here, because what's this, back down to 54,000? So yeah, probably sitting pretty. What's that, a $14,000 run up? So yeah, Bitcoin, looking at it on the monthly, we're looking at potential to go outside month. If we do go outside month, more than likely we are coming for what I believe is all-time highs for Bitcoin, right? So above 73,794. Just looking at the monthly, looking at the weekly, again, last week we closed, 2-2 continuation, right? Respected this previous high. We went holy grail 3-1, then went 2 up, and then we get the 2 continuation. So if we're going to continue with bullish strength, then next targets is going to be this double top up here at 71,958. Obviously, you want to clear the weekly first, which is right here, right? That's going to be your weekly call entry, 69,404. But so as you can see, there's definitely some room to run. It does have some resistance to get through, because there's a lot of previous highs up here. However, with that being said, actually, let me clear that real quick. Boom, get rid of you, done. However, with that being said, yeah, there's a lot of news about it. Obviously, whenever the politicians get involved in it, honestly, I think it'll probably have the same effect as Nancy trading Nvidia. It may not be an immediate move, but yeah, pay attention. The market's very forward thinking. So right now, I think, if I'm not mistaken, smart money is on Trump to win presidency. So if that is the case, yeah, you probably start to see Bitcoin move even more. Looking at Bitcoin on the day, went 212 up, a little bit of exhaustion, but again, even with the pullback, I would say still keep this on your radar. Yeah, in my opinion, I think it's still definitely, some room for it to run, so long as, the senators and the politicians are still talking about it, as well as if, Trump is announcing it's a part of his plan for presidency, then yeah. And I think even there was an article about Kamala even talking about it as well too. So, and honestly, I think they kind of have to move in that direction, especially with BRICS. You know, essentially kind of, move everybody, not everybody, but like, some of the countries are pretty decent and major enough that, yeah, you don't want, the USA doesn't want to be stuck in a situation where, they're no longer top dogs, right? So, or feel like they're top dogs. So you can't, you just can't allow Bitcoin to just take over, and then all of a sudden they're at the low end of the totem pole. So with that being said, oh, sorry, there's something in chat. Let me see. Bitcoin to 70K this week. Yeah, I could see it. I could definitely see it. So with that being said, the first thing that, I wanted to, actually, we'll start off with Coin. Just remember, Coin has earnings. When was it again? When did I say, what day was that? Coin has earnings. Did I pass it?
I think it's Friday.
No, Thursday. Thursday after market close, right? So with that being said, I'm not going to take a look at the months, but if you want to take a look at the week went outside, right? But if you ask me, this drop very well could have just been the manipulation. Because as you like, so what I'm seeing here is that this previous high was still respected, We came all the way back down. We try to take out highs, manipulated down, right? Sweep a little bit of liquidity, taking out this previous high over here. But as you can see, the bulls pushed it right back up. So one or two things, in my opinion, can happen this week, depending on earnings, is we either come down, go 3-2 to the downside. But if we go 3-2 to the downside, pay attention to if price closes above this previous high. If price closes back above this previous high, in my humble opinion, I think it's going to go 3-2 rep strat, in which case you should probably look at a couple of weeks out targeting this high up here, or 280 if you will, or 275, whichever one is most affordable to you and makes you feel most comfortable, right? Because if you really look at it, right, even with this drop over here, all price did is just, basically it pulled back, and then it's still respecting this fair value gap, right? So, yeah, with coin, I think there's definitely, some opportunity there to go long. And then on Friday, all we saw is like you see the run up and then you just saw the pullback. We filled fair value gaps, we swept lows. And then again, even though it's a bearish candle, we swept lows. We see where price closes. It closed above this previous low. So to me, that's not a liquidity. Obviously, well, not to me, but factually speaking, that's not a liquidity run. That's just a liquidity sweep, which would indicate a potential reversal back to the upside. Obviously, you don't want to anticipate that and jump in early. You wait for the confirmation, in which case it did. It's just on Friday, obviously, you got the pullback after the run up, you got the pullback. Clearly, I think there's manipulation here going on right before earnings. Is probably going to shake some of the paper hands out. And then I guarantee, well, not guarantee, but I bet you any money coin just fucking takes off. Watch. We'll see how that happens. We'll see how that works out though. But coin should definitely be on your radar. I understand it's not the best setup, but coin should definitely be on your radar. Have a game plan. Have a game plan marked out, especially if price again drops below 236.04, but closes right back above it. I think, yeah, we could potentially see, kind of a situation like a 2-2 reversal, but this two ends up being either bullish or like a bearish hammer closing above 236.04, in which case, again, I think we'll see the beginnings of a TTO back to the upside. Mara, which is a little bit more small account friendly comparable to coin, which again, we're just going to check out the week. So kind of a similar situation with coin. We see the run up here, right? But then we see the pullback. So again, I think what's happening is that they're waiting on earnings to see what's up with that. But again, create a game plan, right? If it were me, I'm looking to see what price does. Let me see what's up in the chat. I like CLSK2. Cool. I'm looking to see what price does at these lows. If price comes back down to these lows, this 1878, I think this will set us up for a really good opportunity to take longs, maybe a couple of months out, right? But yeah, I think this is, especially if we sweep the lows back into this bullish breaker block right here, right? I think what we can see is again a really nice bounce to go long. Probably look at the 25 call back to the upside, right? I don't think yeah, unless earnings are really bad, I don't think we're gonna see like a major drop in the way Bitcoin is setting up. As a matter of fact, I don't even, what is Mara at right now? Because I know we're looking at the charts, but Mara could, I know Bitcoin stays running. So yeah, see, Mara's already what? This is 21.57. Mara's already up 57 cents. Mara does have earnings on August 1st, which is Thursday after hours is okay, so same day as coin as well too. So, just something to pay attention to. But yeah, Mara's already up 57 cents in the after hours. So yeah, if we do get a drop to 1878 on the weekly, again, pay attention to that if price closes above it. But I don't think we're gonna see that, especially when you look at that daily. I just think they just didn't have enough volume to go along with it. But if we draw I wonder if that's OTE levels. Boom, boom. Yeah, right. So what we did is we fell back into OTE levels, right? And yeah, honestly, this is set up for a pretty decent swing. If we can get hell, maybe do we have an entry on the floor? Yeah, so the 4 hour gives you a hammer, right? So if you, where's the 4 hour? 22. Actually, no, the 4 hour already triggered. Well, if Mara opens at above 2193, then the 4 hour already triggered, and we got a 212 reversal back to the upside. In which case, you could probably either wait a little bit or wait to take the daily entry of 2214, which currently the daily entry has triggered as well too. Just be aware that there's a fair value gap above here, so you might find a little resistance. I'm saying that to say that you might be able to, you don't have to be the first one in. You might get a nice little pullback, maybe back down again into this previous high on the daily. And then you could probably think about taking a really nice swing back to the upside. Ultimately, though, I think we're going to TTO. I don't know when it's going to happen or how long it'll take, but there is some resistance along the way at 25.56. You also have this fair value gap here as well too, between 22.59 and 23.30. So if you are thinking calls, and maybe you could look at the 23 call, get a little time on it, and then if it runs up to 25.27, shit, even better, right? But yeah, honestly, these follow Bitcoin, so definitely something that I would say to pay attention to. And the other small account friendly one, there's obviously other tickers like what Cass put in there, CLSK, MSTR as well too. But not going to go over every single one. I just want to give the ones with the smaller accounts a little bit of love too. Riot also follows Bitcoin. So if we look at on the weekly, again, inside week actionable signal. I think we just closed below previous high, but very close. So I would not be surprised if we get back above that. Yeah, just closed 1 penny below it. I think probably above it right now anyway. Let's see. Riot is, yeah, Riot's already at 1132. So yeah, this week could potentially either stay inside or we can go 212 to the upside, or this could be the beginning of a rev strat where price falls back into this unicorn model, this breaker block with the fair value gap in it. Price falls into the fair value gap, bounces off of that, sets up a 122 rev strat back to the upside on the weekly. Looking at the daily, again, it does look like, it's bearish and it looks like it's pulling back, but if you really look at it, it's just pulling back into a fair value gap, which it did, respected it, and then, you know, potential to bounce back to the upside. Daily entry, I'm not really a big fan of the daily entry on Riot because it's not that fast of a mover. It only moves about $1 a day. So you might catch a little exhaustion right after, that daily entry. So what I'll probably do is look at maybe, yeah, see, the 4 hour gives you, in my opinion, a better entry of 1125. So you can probably take the 4 hour entry, and again, just give it some time. But with that 4 hour entry being a bearish hammer, that's an actionable signal. As you can see, we came back into the breaker block. So we're looking for a little bit of bounce back to the upside, right? Hold on one second. Okay. Where was I? Okay, yeah. So I would recommend taking the 4 hour entry on Riot, not necessarily the daily. If you miss the 4 hour, then the daily wouldn't be a bad entry. Just be careful. There might be a little exhaustion after it triggers. But yeah, really not that big of a deal, especially if you're swinging. Riot also has earnings on Wednesday, the 31st. So something to pay attention to as well. So I mean, there's many different ways you could game plan this. You could be bold and try to swing through it if it goes bullish, and follows Bitcoin. You could try to be bold and swing through it. You could also maybe do like a quick, day trade, maybe grab something again, take that 4 hour entry, but maybe grab like the 11.5 call or maybe the 12 call if you think it's going to run all the way up there before Wednesday. And then maybe, get something a little bit longer after earnings, assuming earnings is good. All right. So just many different ways that you can play that. All right. Um, So we'll switch over to NVIDIA. So NVIDIA doesn't have earnings for a little bit, but because I know everybody, pays attention to it, wants to trade it. So far on the month, we got the 2-2 reversal. Really what I'm looking for is price to see if price displaces below the monthly put entry of 112. If it does displace below the monthly entry of 112, then my next level for price to potentially get down to is either going to be the 97.40 or the consequent encroachment of this monthly fair value gap, which puts us right around 10. So basically 100, right? Um, if it does close below that 112, then I think we see 100, or potentially lower on Nvidia. And again, that wouldn't be a bad thing, right? Nvidia's been running up since what, 2022, right? So this wouldn't be like some crazy thing like, oh my God, Nvidia's dying. No, it's just pullbacks, right? Let me see what we got in the chat. I'll get more shares. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is not something like, Nvidia's dying or whatever. Just, um, and that's one thing I do want to thank you, Food, for bringing that up. That's one thing I definitely want y'all to, when y'all look at, the market being bearish, and I see that the chat gets really quiet or whatever, right? Um, I think it's because we still look at like, oh, bearish is bad, right? There is no good or bad. There's always a money making opportunity in the market, no matter what, right? So if the market is going bearish, and let's say for whatever reason you miss out on the puts, you still have to open your mind to the different possibilities, because if it's dropping, but it's a good company, it's a good ticker, it's not going anywhere. Apple, case in point, Microsoft, case in point, right? If money's rotating away from tech, that doesn't mean that, oh, be done with it, don't look at it or whatever. Food just brought up a good point. Get shares, right? Or this might be an opportunity, right? Because everybody keeps on, man, I wish I could have gotten in at this low price. Well, the low price happens when the ticker is dying, right? When it's going bloody, when it's selling off. So that's when the low prices happen. And that's where you can go ahead and jump in on some pretty decent long-term swings, right? So just because it's dying does not mean, look away from it. But yeah, if Nvidia drops below 100, yeah, I mean, shares would not be a bad way to go. Shit, even if it drops down to, because ICT talks about all the time how sometimes the first fair value gap might get skipped and then the second one will hold support. So even if it drops down to here, what's that, 75? Still, shit, I would definitely be right, like load the boats on them shares for sure, right? Because we know that AI is not going anywhere. We know that every single day they're finding more and more capabilities and more functionality and more uses for AI. Even the things that we don't see, it's probably being used in the way that we farm, the way that we clean the earth, the way that we study human behaviors, right? Like it's being used for almost every little thing. So we know that's not going anywhere anytime soon. Um, so I would say don't necessarily sleep on chips or sleep on tech. All you're seeing, in my opinion, is just money rotating away from it. That's all. And this is normal, right? There's always a market rotation, right? I hopefully nobody expected, chips and tech to continuously run. Like we know, hopefully by now we know the market doesn't work like that. All right. But yeah, looking at the weekly, did find some support, so there's maybe a potential for a bounce, but I'm not really sold on it yet, considering that we closed below this previous low. So I think, maybe we bleed down to this area over here with the two previous, the relative equal highs up here. Maybe we bleed down to that and use that as support. In which case, again, 100 put, 105 put. I mean, if you're feeling froggy, the 95 put. Me personally, I probably look at either the 110, 105 or 100 put. If it, again, assuming that it goes bearish, right? And then looking at the daily as well too. So yeah, we went inside, tried to start off Friday, kind of high, couldn't really clear that previous low right here. So yeah, I think, that sets us up for potentially a 212 to the downside. The reason why I don't think we took it on Friday is because, again, that 112, excuse me, is a pretty strong level of support. That's the monthly put entry. So I think the bulls are trying to hold on to that, personally speaking. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. One or two, my theory is this, is that if we do go bullish, Monday, well, yeah, if we go bullish Monday, what I'm looking for is price to close above, 116, but really I would like to see it close above 118. If we can't get that, I think what we do is we go two up, but we wick into this and then we close below it, which sets us up for a 122 rev strat back to the downside. If that is the case, then I'm targeting this low. That's where I would target. I would target the 105 put, but just give it some time, maybe a couple of weeks, because we know this thing can move. So maybe give it a couple of weeks. Also, from a strat perspective, you do have full time frame continuity going against you if you're thinking bullish. Every time frame is currently bearish, right? So just putting that out there. Okay. All right. So with that being said, because I know everybody and their mom loves, looking at Nvidia. What was it? AMD had earnings coming up too, right? If I'm not mistaken. Did I say that? Yeah. So AMD has earnings on, yeah. So that's another thing too. If I know they don't directly affect each other all the time, but I would imagine if AMD and QCOM don't do well for earnings, I would imagine that would probably drag the rest of chips down. All right. So looking at AMD, yeah. Well, let's start off on the month. Yeah. So we have a Nirvana on the month, right? Assuming it continues that way. I'm looking for price to hold below 140, 116. If that happens, then I think we can definitely see some more downside. Yes, I know we have this previous high here, but there's also sell side liquidity on the monthly down here, right? So there's potential for a pretty decent drop over the next month. I'm not saying it's going to happen next week. I'm not saying it's going to happen, 2 weeks from now, but pretty decent drop, right? With that being said, you can make some pretty decent money off of AMD puts with a nice swing, assuming, again, earnings being bad, right? So Tuesday after market close, if I'm not mistaken, is that what I said? Yeah, I believe. Hold on, let me flip back to earnings subs. Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday after market close for AMD, right? So what I would say is if you're in AMD Monday heading into Tuesday, make sure, at least reduce your position or get out of it entirely, right? You don't want to be that one holding the bag. You know what I'm saying? Don't be the one holding the bag. Please don't be the one, right? And I know it's going to happen, but please don't gamble. Not this week, right? I wouldn't recommend it. All right. There's too many other factors playing through. And I know Microsoft is not a part of chips, but it's still in the tech sector. So too many things happening this week that can completely sway market pricing, sentiment, everything, right? So I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just trying to tell you, please be careful. If you see your profit this week, take it. And I know some of you are not going to listen, but if you see your profit this week, please just take it, right? Stay green. Don't overtrade this week. This is not the week to do it. All right. Looking at the weekly for AMD, we do have a lot of decent support, right? Unicorn model with this breaker block here. But again, earnings can completely wipe all that shit out. Or earnings could reverse it too, right? We technically did make, my bad. We did make a broadening formation on the weekly, so maybe there's a potential bounce, but I'm really not sold on that shit. Right now, full-time frame continuity is telling me bearishness. Um, we did not sweep the lows, we ran them. So I think next level will be here, which will be 133.74. But we'll see. We'll definitely see. Personally, I would just wait until after earnings, but I know if you see something again on the lower time frames, you might be able to scalp this shit. Um, Now as far as on the daily back to the upside, uh yeah, that's a lot to get through, right? If we go 2-1-2 up, that's two fair value gaps and also a previous low to get to. So essentially we might see something like this, right? If that does happen, right? So for you that are thinking about shorting, right? And let's say this happens after earnings, right? I probably wouldn't do this before earnings, but mark out these levels. If price comes back up to this level, or even possibly back up to this bearish breaker block up here, back up to the 150s, right? See if it starts exhausting around there. If that's the case, and if that starts happening, I would probably enter a swing targeting the 135 put. All right, for AMD. Let me see how the 4 hours looking. Triple inside. Okay, well, it's gearing up for something. Up, either to the upside or to the downside. It's gearing up for something. Ideally, if I'm thinking puts, I wanted to run up to the upside, and I wanted to hit all these roadblocks here. You got a unicorn model here. You got a fair value gap inside of a bearish breaker block. So yeah, I would want price to come up to about here. I would probably even set an alert, right? I would set an alert for at 150, right? If price for it to cross down, right? So for those of you that don't know how to set an alert, click there, click the little clock, right? I would set it for crossing down, right? And then at that point, I would probably put like AMD 135 put, boom, copy, and then copy that there, boom, right? So that way I don't have to watch it. If price does explode up to there, if it crosses up, it's not going to tell me anything. But if price crosses back down below it, then that's going to alert me. And then afterwards, I would know that, hey, we're probably thinking puts here. In which case, I can either, if it's happening before earnings, I can probably set up a potential scalp, maybe go for the 150 put or maybe the 145 put, make some money off of that. Or if it happens after earnings, then I can probably swing through to the 135 put. All right. Okay, so cat, actually I already have cat open. If there's a particular ticker you want to look at, we do have some time for that. Just want to throw that out there. So let's take a look at cat real quick. Oh, actually. So just really want to just show you XLI real quick. So XLI last week, as you can see, took took all-time highs. It actually went on the monthly, went 122 rev strat, right? So this is why I say always pay attention to when you get holy grails, 3 1s, pay attention to what that first two does, right? For me, it's not a rule. I'm gonna be clear, it's not a rule, it's not 100% guaranteed, but more times than not, as I've studied the holy grails, I always pay attention to what price does when it crosses the high and the low of the three, right? Strat wise, it's mother bar issues if price stays in the range of the three. So when I get the 3-1 and then I get the two sweeps the lows, but it doesn't actually take it right to the downside. Sweeps the lows, comes back up, and actually ends up closing higher than the previous month's open. So for me, that signals to me that potentially we could get a 1-2 rev strat, which we do, right? Price comes back to retest, right? Once you get across the first time, it's gonna more than likely come back to retest that very same entry, which it did, failed. And then as you can see, price pushed back up. Now the month is not closed yet. Ideally, I would want to see the month close above the high of the three, which would be 126.39. I would want to see it close above that. If we do get that, more than likely we're going to continue pushing up. Where? Not really sure. Not really. I don't really know how to do the extended fibs like Biker does, so I'm not really sure. But um, I'm confident enough is why I called out Cat because Cat was also looking good. And then again, you look at it on the weekly, not necessarily a hammer candle, but two down bullish sets us up for a 2-2 reversal on the weekly for XLI. So coming back over to Cat. All right, so Cat on the monthly, right? We get the 2-2 reversal. And one of the reasons why I love Cat so much. Wait, why is it not showing? Did I turn it? Oh, I did turn it off. My bad. My bad. So just to illustrate fair value gap, right? So if we look at Cat and pay attention to price, what price is telling us, over the past 5 months, price has tried to break into this fair value gap, right? As you can see over the past 5 months, it's failed. It's never been able to displace into the fair value gap. Yes, it's touched the consequent encroachment and retested it, but it's never been able to close inside of it. Hold on, let me see what's in the chat. Pan W, can I pull up LRJ as well? Once a lifetime opportunity to witness. LRJ? What's that? Well, I'll look at it. Never heard of that ticker, but we'll learn something new tonight. Now, with that being said, I think Cat is going to try to follow suit um, with XLI. So I think we're, coming for all-time highs at 382. Again, not saying it's going to happen this week. It may not even happen next week, but I think it'll happen at some point during the quarter, right before the quarter closes. I think we're going to get that. Um, excuse me. Excuse me again. Sorry about that. So we get the 2-2 reversal on the month, and then on the week, we end up with we end up with an order block. This is the red candle is going to be the order block. And also we end up with a fair value gap. So what price did this past week is, came back down, retraced back down into the order block. And well, here, if you can't really see it, 1 second. Bullish OB, boom, boom. There, right? So price traded back down into the fair value gap and into the order block, bounced off of that. So we're set up for a 2-2 reversal back to the upside. If that's the case, I would probably say 370 is probably where it's going next. You do have a previous high up here at 365. So I'd probably say 360, 365, or 370 if you're looking to swing Cat back to the upside. DE also, I believe, is looking good, but I didn't really call that one out. But you can also chart that one. Usually, if Cat's running, DE's running, and vice versa. I'm not going to say they always run in tandem with each other, but yeah, if DE and XLI are doing pretty good, then you'll probably see those two do pretty good as well too. Okay.
DE looks really good. It's got a 313 on the monthly.
See, there you go. Right. See, I didn't even have to look at it because I like if you see Cat, like I'm pretty sure DE. So that's just something you should write down and pay attention to. Yeah. For me, it's like if Cat's doing good, DE's probably doing good as well too. So definitely pay attention to that. I'll look at it tonight I'll look at it tonight. If I see something, then I'm gonna go ahead and put out some. I probably won't take it, just keeping it a stack because I'm already in Cat. I try not to over leverage, right, into a sector, but if it looks good, I'll put it out there. I just won't track it to see if it's like, what percentages, because again, I won't be in it. But I'll look at it and say, hey, you should be up now, or some shit like that. Okay. Looking at the daily, yeah, we went 3-2 up. A little bit of exhaustion hitting into the fair value gap here. I think we probably hit the 50% of the fair value gap more than likely. Let me change. Yeah, so that's exactly what it was. We hit the 50% of this bearish fair value gap, exhausted a little bit off of it. Not quite thinking a reversal. Probably going to retest this consequent encroachment and probably looking for it to close above it at some point. Earnings is a little bit of ways away. We do have until over the next 2 weeks, right? So this could potentially be, the earnings run up. But if you look at it, right, it looks like a classic TTO scenario. You get the run up here, right? We trace back into this weekly bullish order block. Also inside of that weekly bullish order block is a daily fair value gap as well too. And this is how you start putting the confluences together. Strat wise, we ended up with outside bar, so that's aggression to the bullish side, and then you get the two up right after that. So if the bulls are going to stay, in charge and in force, you're looking for a 2-2 continuation back to the upside. All right. Me personally, I'm in the 355s for this week expiration. So not that far off. It's ATR that moves $8. So, I think we can get there by the end of the week. Hopefully tomorrow, but I think we could get there by the end of the week. I'm gonna say this: if we get there tomorrow, get to 355 or higher, tomorrow, I am not gonna swing it through. I'm just gonna take my profit, call it a day. If it keeps running, I don't give a fuck. I'm done. I'm not doing that whole oh shit, I left money on the table shit, because the point of the portfolio is to stay green. So, take that whatever way you want to take that. So let's see. We had Pan W. I did have one other that I wanted to look at before we're done here, but let's look at Pan W, Palo Alto. Right. So Palo Alto, I mean, so far, like, I mean, overall, when you look at the monthly, it still looks good. Honestly, I kind of expect, well, this could be just profit taking, honestly, because yeah, clearly this is a level of resistance here at 339. One fail, two fail, three fail, four fail. So if it stays inside the way it is, I'm not saying it's going to be a reversal, but I would just be aware of that level, that 340 level. Clearly it's some pretty decent resistance so far. If we can get a really strong reversal in the next 3 days and close above it, then yeah, we're probably gonna go for 380 probably within the next month, or at least before quarter close. Looking at the weekly, yeah, I think what we're seeing is just a pullback, right? We're still respecting the fair value gap as well as these two previous highs as well too. You click here, there, right? We're still respecting that. There's also again, a fair value gap. Are you not clicking? There we go. There's also a fair value gap here that is still being respected, the consequent encroachment of it. So if price starts displacing away from it, we potentially could set up for a 322 rev strat back to the upside, in which case probably you want to target this high of 345. And again, it may not do it by the end of the month. It may do it in August, maybe that first week of August, right? Essentially what you're looking at, because you can't ignore it, right? What you're looking at is price. It's kind of stuck between two fair value gaps, right? Not enough pressure to get above the consequent encroachment of this bearish fair value gap, but also not enough selling pressure to die off and take out this previous high as well as the fair value gap here. So it's really stuck between two. Ideally, again, if I want to see it continue to push up, I would want to see some sort of displacement either at or above 345. In which case I'll feel a lot more comfortable about, all-time highs. But right now, so far, it's kind of just stuck between the two over the past couple of candles. All right. So just something that you need to be aware of right there. Earnings is not, yeah, earnings is a ways off anyway. So because it's a way, I mean, you may get a little cool off period. You may, just saying. Let me look at bug real quick. Let me see what bug is looking like. Bug on the week, well, not bad. Bug on the weekly actually is bullish. Traded back down into a fair value gap, swept low. So yeah, we may get a, yeah, okay, we might get a reversal for Palo Alto, and in which case I don't know why my mind is blanking. Palo Alto, what else is there? Fortinet, Zscaler. There's another one. Fuck it, that's enough. Palo Alto, Zscaler, Fortinet. There is another one. I just can't think of it off the top of my head. But yeah, those are, look it up. Look up the holdings for the bug sector. Let me see what CIBR is doing as well too. CrowdStrike. Damn, I knew that shit was bothering me. Yeah, CrowdStrike is another one to look at as crowd, if you will, is another one to look at as well too. Actually, I want to. Did it take a really bad hit from? Yes, it did. That airline shit was bad. But this may actually prove to be a really good opportunity, risk to reward wise, back to the upside. Definitely more room, back to the upside. But what a beautiful drop. See, like I get excited when I hear bad news for a company, especially if I know it's a company that's one of the leaders in the sector and I know it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So I like this. This it may not be an immediate thing, but this might be a really good setup for a swing, especially if we can ideally trade back down and sweep these lows at 238 right back into this unicorn here, right? This fair value gap with this bullish breaker block. If we can trade back into that and you see it starting to displace out of it, yeah, I think that'll be a really nice ass swing, in my opinion. Matter of fact, let me just set the alert right now for real, for real. Actually, only once, and then crossing up. And then since I haven't set up a target yet, I'm gonna just put crowd long. All right. Yeah, definitely. So good looks on Palo Alto. The only thing I'm gonna say just on the daily, as you can see, it's been having some like pretty big, and it just kind of feeds into the same confluence that we are talking about on the weekly, right? The fair value gap, the consequent encroachment of it. But as you can see on the daily, there is a bearish breaker block that you can see it's been struggling to break out of, right? So not saying like it won't do it this time around, but again, you need to be aware of like once you develop your bias. So let's say we're long on Palo Alto, you need to be aware of where price could potentially reject, where it can have a roadblock, if you will, obstacles, if you will, and you want to have a game plan. If it gets up to, let's say, this high and it starts to fail a little bit, right? You may want to, take some profit off the table, maybe leave runners. That way you're a little stress free instead of trying to, hold on to the entire position. If your portfolio can stand holding on to an entire position, cool. But if you're nervous about like what's happening, if price is starting to struggle up here, then your portfolio can't handle it. Just to make it clear, right? If you're nervous about price struggling to get past a certain level and you're like, biting your nails and shit, then yeah, your portfolio more than likely cannot handle that. In which case, dog, just take your 30 or 40% and call it a day. You know what I'm saying? Now, I will say this: it looks like potentially we have the beginnings of a power of three scenario, right? Here's your accumulation, and then this could be seen as your manipulation down here for the distribution back to the upside. If that is the case, then distribution will more than likely take out this high up here at 345.90. Okay. So many different ways that this can play out, many different things to be aware of. But again, if we're gonna go bullish, potential power of three. And again, looking at the weekly, draw out your fair value gap. You want it to clear the 50%. So basically, once it gets and holds above 345, it's cleared the 50% of this fair value gap here. Right. So just mark that out. If it does that, then not only do you get a 322 rev strap back to the upside on the weekly, you've also cleared the 50% of the consequent encroachment of the fair value gap. So you're more than likely price is more than likely gonna go ahead and try to attack the highs of 380 and above. Okay. That's Palo Alto. What was it that he said? LRJ? What is that? Yeah. Are we sure that's, or is Food just joking? Once in a lifetime opportunity. I don't know, maybe. Oh, dude, then just put LBJ. That's what everybody knows him as. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, you could have put that, then I would have known instead of typing in LRJ. And I told you already, I'm not a LeBron hater. I just know who my GOAT is. And yes, he's actually killing it right now. I watched him, Team USA. Pretty decent. 40 years old, carrying the team. Yeah. Again, I'm not a hater. I mean, good God, the guys. Yes, to you. I got it. Cool. Like, I don't know what you were trying to accomplish there. Maybe bait me into an argument or something like that. Like I said, I'm not a Bron hater. I know he's good. He's the GOAT of his era, for sure. All right, so moving on to the last thing I wanted to look at was CLF. Actually, I don't need to do it here. My bad. Switch up. Actually, what was I? Cat. Oh no, there was another one. I'm sorry. Two more actually. My bad. So AVGO. Oh, there's one in chat. Let me see. Oh, he's just yeah. Okay. So I put this one on watch because I'm not necessarily sold on it just yet, right? So here's what I'm seeing. On the monthly, so far, even though it's red, previous high is still being respected, the 143.82, right? As you can see, a little tiny fair value gap created. As you can see, we kind of bounced off of that. All right. Looking at, was it the 2-week? All right, yeah. So 2-week, actually, I'm sorry. I wrote this in my channel. So let me just see my notes real quick. Give me 1 second, y'all. 1 second. 2-week. Oh yeah. Okay. So on the 2-week, potential 122 rev strap back to the upside. And why I feel a little confident about that is because of how the fair value gap that broke structure is also being respected as well too. So again, potential 122 rev strat. Ideally, price, we would want to see price displacing up and outside of this fair value gap. There's also a bullish order block. Again, this is on the 2-week. There's also a bullish order block right here as well too. So, again, price could just be tracing back into it, but holding support around this range. Looking at the weekly, and you kind of just see the same thing, right? You see the big run up, price coming back to retest the previous highs over here. And, it's doing that, but holding support again. Let me change that real quick. Fair value gap template, boom. So holding support, actually, well, it's below the consequent encroachment on this one. So we'll see what happens there. But there's a reason why I'm saying it's on watch, because I think there's still a little bit more downside. I'm really looking to see if price comes back down to this 143.82, maybe even dips back into this bullish order block. So this could be a pretty good setup for a reversal back to the upside if you can be patient with it. I think also fibs wise, I think we just hit, nope. Yes, we did. I'm sorry. We traced back into OTE entry area. And as you can see, price started getting bought up at that point. So again, we might see potentially a reversal. This is why I'm saying put it on watch. I'm not necessarily saying to trade it just yet. When you look at the daily as well too, yes, the lows did get ran. Liquidity was run on the lows, but again, price came back down into this fair value gap, exhausted off of that, and then we got the 2-2 reversal. Now, it is a bearish hammer, so again, we could continue heading down. Again, this is why I say it's on watch, not necessarily something to jump into. But if we can get price to displace above this previous low, above 153.90, yeah, I think we have potential here for a nice run back up to the highs here at 165.33. Now that would be the first leg. So if you want to wait, for price to retrace again and then, make its move for the second leg, you're more than welcome to. But AVGO, I think I think all we're seeing here is just the pullback. And so far we've pulled back into OTE entry. This may not be an immediate move, but yeah, I think it's something that you should keep on your radars. And something that you may be able to swing into a pretty nice trade. All right. Could use a second set of eyes on Google. 2-week is appealing to me. Well, I know Google isn't completely affected, but Meta's earning, I mean, Meta's pretty big in XLC, so I might tell you to like hold off on that until after Meta's earnings. But I mean, it's holding on the fair value gap. The 2 week, yeah, we actually get a new 2 week candle tomorrow, so it's holding a fair value gap. But ideally, what I would look for if price continues to drop is to see if this previous high holds as support. Um, and actually, that's a pretty good area for, in my opinion, for a swing. If we can get price to come back down to 153.78, but then wick between 150 and 153, I think that would be a pretty bomb ass swing back to the upside. But yeah, so far on the 2 week, it's looking pretty good. Like I wouldn't, it's not something I would enter right now. Excuse me. But yeah, it's holding that fair value gap. Let me see what the weekly looks like. It's holding the fair value gap. Did we sweep the lows? Not quite, but basically tap the lows there. But it is bearish. So again, we can trace back down either into this fair value gap, but ideally, again, I would want to see price come back down into this range where you have the breaker block. You have relative equal highs as well too that may act as support. This is where I would want it because then you got the bigger risk to reward swing to the upside, right? Back, I mean, obviously you don't have to get all the way back up to, 191, but maybe the 180s, maybe the 170s, you know what I'm saying? A $20 move and maybe swing that out a couple of months. I think that'll be nice, in my opinion. It's a good look, Doc. It's gonna be a patient move though. Like it's not something I would say immediately enter. This is one that you can wait until like see what Meta earnings does for the sector in general. Yeah, because you got a while before Google earnings again. So yeah, you can probably wait on that. Not to mention you also have some breaker, you got a bearish breaker block. So ideally price on the daily could essentially do something like this and then continue down. So don't get faked out. A lot of people get faked out by that manipulation move back up only to realize and it may even go all the way up here actually. Probably not though. There's a lot of that's a lot of fair value gaps to get through. Shit. But even if it does, that could just be the manipulation only to continue going down. And where's this breaker block is all the way down. Yep. So, and this is I like this area, right? So I would pay attention to what happens around this area where the breaker block is at 149 because remember on the weekly, I'm sorry, the 2 week, we were just talking about that. That's exactly where around the area where we have previous high and then also a previous low that should act as hopefully should act as support, right? So I would probably set an alert if price gets down here, which would be perfect because it still has to fill this gap over here. It hasn't filled the gap yet. So yeah, I would probably set an alert for price to come down here. You can actually play this two ways, in my opinion. If price comes up, like starts trading up, and you see it start to exhaust inside of this breaker block, you can probably trade puts on Google targeting the consequent encroachment of this gap fill. So if it trades up to, let's say, 170, 175, you can get that 160, 165 put, right? Let it come down here, take your profit or leave runners. And if it continues to really run all the way down to 150, even better. You know what I'm saying? And then you can probably flip that into calls to get it back to the upside because we know Google's not going anywhere. Just my theory. Hopefully that helps. All right. Last two. So right, Home Depot, we got a 2-2 continuation on the month, yeah? On the weekly, we did fall back down into, but we're holding support on the weekly fair value gap here, right? So we went 2 down bullish. So that sets us up for, excuse me, that sets us up for a 2-2 reversal back to the upside. for Home Depot. Looking at the daily, we got a 2-2 reversal already. It just, again, couldn't really clear and displace above the fair value gap. The bearish fair value gap that was created, a little tiny one, but yeah, I'm sorry, between these two candles, this candle here, but boom, boom, right? So couldn't really clear that, but yeah, I think we'll probably clear it if we continue heading up, probably clear it this week. Earnings is not for a while, right? I try to pick, hopefully some tickers that should not get affected by this earnings week. So that's why I put that out there, because, but for me, if you look at it, Home Depot looks like it's the beginning of a TTO back to the upside. Me personally, what did I recommend for Home Depot? So 365, 82, 375, 89, or 380, 816. It's already at 360 now, so we're talking a $20 move for an ATR that moves a little bit over $7 a day. $20 moves, we're talking, that can be done in 2 weeks. All right. Now you do have a little bit of resistance, at, I would say 368, right, where you have the bearish breaker block. So for me, I probably would be thinking, if I can afford it, if you can afford it, I would say probably thinking like 370s if you want to be on the safer side with time, maybe 370, 816. But yeah, Home Depot, I think it's one that it might be worth a look. I think you guys should take a look at for sure. 4 hour doesn't really give a better entry, but I did want to highlight that it gives you an actionable signal. So that sets us up, excuse me, for a 212 continuation to the upside. And I think I only wanted to highlight that the hour is respecting the fair value gap. It hasn't dipped below or even into it. So it's respecting the fair value gap. So just wanted to throw that out there. And then CLF was another one. The reason why I caught its attention is because of the hammer on the sector XME, which is metals and mining. So you have your AA in there, you have CLF in here as well too. A couple other tickers, but the ones I mainly trade out of there is AA and CLF. Very small account friendly. I like the 16 call, possibly 16.5. But again, we get the hammer on the week. Full time frame continuity is green. Daily gave us a 322 rev strat back to the upside. As you can see, that happened after we swept liquidity. So once we sweep liquidity, what does that create? Creates your broadened formation to the downside. There we go, boom, right there. So we have room to the upside. Now, some areas of potential resistance. Sorry, my bad. That was for XME. So that's XME. Now, when we look at CLF, so CLF on the weekly gave us a 322 rev strat, but I always call it a false one because it's not really a down candle. I mean, yes, it is, but it's a bullish candle, right? And also we couldn't clear the lows of the 3, so I think we probably going to look at a 2-2 reversal. So far, though, keeping it completely honest, we have mother bar issues, right? Price is stuck inside of this mother bar, which is why I'm thinking the 16 call, not necessarily the 16.5, because price could very well just trade in this range for a little bit, right? So CLF, just like XME, swept the lows. So again, you have the bottom of your broadening formation, right? Upside is all the way up here. Shit, my bad. Upside is all the way up here. So risk to reward, swing wise, you definitely have a lot more room to the upside. And small tickets like this can get pretty decisive with direction, right? As you can see, once it decided to go south, we're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 weeks of straight. I mean, I know we get a little upside there, but majority of it is downside. But then again, so again, I'm just illustrating it can be pretty decisive with direction. So it could be a pretty nice swing. So yeah, this 2 down sets us up for a 2-2 reversal. And then on the daily, we have an actionable signal. So that sets us up for a 2-1-2 reversal to the upside. And then again, the daily did make a new broadening formation. If you want to draw it from there, or if you want to include this, then you can draw it from there as well too. But again, daily wise, we still have room to the upside. Oh shit, my bad. We still have room to the upside as far as for a potential swing. Daily entry is going to be at 15.59. And again, you can grab the 16 call, and if it continues to run higher than that, even better. But yeah, I think it can turn out to be either a really nice swing, or since it moved 54 cents a day, it might hit 16 before the end of the week. So if you see profit, take it. All right. And that is all I really got. Oh, chat, let me see. It took it further than I had seen. Yeah, you just, Google, like Google is definitely one that it's one of my favorites out of XLC. It's not as volatile as Netflix and Meta for that matter, but yeah, that shit's a mover too. She a little workhorse. So um dare I say it might actually be my favorite XLC ticker. No disrespect to Meta and Netflix. I mean, because I've made money from those two as well too. But yeah, because Google, especially when decisive, like you can get a nice 2, 3, 4 day run out of that thing actually. So, no, we have not food. Um, yeah, that's definitely in the back of my mind. We have been trying, not trying to alarm anybody, but we've been trying. We're working in the background. I just, at this point, I just hope. Anyway, I don't want to put that out there, but yeah. Anyway, uh, that's all I got. That's all I got. I mean, food. If he hits you back, please let us know because, like I said, yeah, we don't know what's going on. Everything, at least, yeah, just yeah, I don't know what's going on. So I hope everything's okay. It's not normally like him. Um, he does communicate with us in the background, but yeah, it's just been kind of, yeah, I hope everything's okay. Anyway, all right, that's all I really got, y'all. Again, I'm gonna reiterate this. If you see profit this week, just take it. Um, don't gamble. Don't gamble this week, right? With elections starting to ramp up a little bit, right? Because we're coming into elections, you're gonna start seeing more and more articles coming out, which it's gonna sway the market. It's going to. The market's forward thinking. And it's no different than placing money on the ponies. You know what I'm saying? You placing bets on who you think is going to be the next, future leader of America. And yeah, if they're going to be, then they're going to have a certain agenda. And that agenda is probably going to dictate how certain market sectors are going to run, right? So just if you see profit this week, take your profit. A lot of volatile stuff going on with earnings as well too. So yeah, just please don't be one of the ones in the group, talking about you lost a lot of your port today. Please don't even go heavy. All right. It's better for you to be like, man, I should have went heavy as opposed to, man, I went heavy and lost most of it. All right. Anyway, that's all I got. Love, peace, and chicken grease. See y'all in the group. Probably won't be talking as much tomorrow. I go back to work tomorrow, and Mondays are normally the days I have shit ton of meetings. So yeah. Anyway, deuces, y'all.